Thanks for joining me this afternoon then. This is the card that I'll be making. What I've tried to do is incorporate the products, the dies and the stamps that will be coming up in Lisa's next shows, which are on the 23rd of July, so that's this coming Friday, I believe, for the UK audiences. Anyway, the USA can actually catch that show the evening before on the Thursday the 22nd at 9 PM and 9:45. They say the UK audience can watch on Friday the 23rd at 9 in the morning and 2:15 in the afternoon. It's a grab it before it's gone show, so there's a whole mix of different products coming up, which is great, because there'll be all sorts of samples to look at. It will be reminders of past launches that Lisa has had, possibly a few of her favourites, and it will give you the chance to just put things in your basket that you may have missed out on before, or that you was and ahhing over, and you perhaps decided since watching other demos and seeing other samples that actually you may quite like to have that in your craft stash. So it'll be a fantastic show. Let's say I'm using 3 of the products that are coming from this show. So we have the SLIMLINE Hoops and Bubbles frame, that's the die set. We have a stamp and die set here, which is the layered words. These words here are in the stamp form, and these items here are in the die form. It's a really versatile set. It's something that I always pair with other products of Lisa's, because in my view you can't have too many sentiments. You always need that mix and match of words, so you can just put just the exact words that you need on any of the projects that you make. And also what's coming up is this glorious Cherry Blossom Edgecutz stamp. Now I'm not using this as an Edgecutz today, but I will show you the principle behind it. I've actually used this as an embellishment in itself. Now the thinking also behind the design of this card today is actually using the card layout for the challenge that we have currently running on the Crafting with Lisa Horton Facebook group. I didn't get a chance to print out the actual the layout myself, but if you pop into the group after the video, of course, we've all shared the banner. It's in celebration of Lisa reaching 5,000 followers within the group, which is an amazing achievement, and we're so glad to have you all on board, sharing your designs and getting enthusiastic and excited for all of Lisa's launches, and just to show for Lisa to show her support and to show our support as a design team. We've decided to launch this challenge, which runs till the end of the month, and all we're asking you to do is to create a card with a specific layout. As I say, you'll see that if you go into the group afterwards, using all of Lisa's products, of course, which I'm sure you all have many now. If you don't, then it really doesn't matter, because the style of the card is really quite a straightforward style. You can use any shaped card that you like. You have to have a layer underneath, like the bubbles here, but it can be a plain piece of card. It's entirely up to you, and there are a few samples already within the group, and we've created an album. So once you've created your card, actually, if you can add it to the challenge album, that'll give us the reference point to go in and have a look at everybody's. But also, if you want to have a starting point, if you just need some ideas, just pop into the challenge album and just have a little look at what everyone else has done. So you need a layer sitting onto the card bank itself, but sitting at an angle. Now this is my interpretation, and I've used bubbles, which is entirely within the rules. Then you have a design element sitting on top with your sentiment banner running across your design element. So this is my take on it, and there are other cards in the album now which are absolutely fantastic. So head over there and say get some inspiration, and if you fancy entering, there'll be a lovely prize at the end of the month to be won by somebody. I know you'll make our jobs really hard in choosing who's the best card. It's always really hard, but say we really enjoy looking through all of your makes. So this is my take on the card, and I wanted to show you how to sort of incorporate something a little bit different into the background. I wanted to use the bubble die here. Now this is, bubble die isn't actually a slimline die, which is one of Lisa's staples within the collection. We all know that she loves the slimline design. But what I've actually done, I've actually cut this twice to create a wider design feature of that, and I just wanted to show you how you can do that. You are not just limited by the fact that this is a slimline die. There are other designs in the group, and I'm pretty sure that our Elizabeth Hogarth has done a shaker card, and she's used two of these loop dies together to make a square card, and they say that's just a fantastic demonstration again that this can be used for any shape card. Okay, so let's move this aside. So initially I wanted to show you how we create this bubble section in the back. I've die cut from Lisa's super smooth card. I've run this through the die cutting machine once already, so you can see there that we have one section cut. Now what I wanted to show you is how to actually line up to create almost a seamless, it won't be seamless, but as close as you can to sort of making it look like it's meant to be this wide. Now you can of course just run this through the die cutting machine again and just put this exactly side by side, either that way round or that way round, and you'll end up with a double width panel, and that would be absolutely fine. And then what I would suggest that you do along this centre line, this is where I would put you'd actually put this onto the card this way around, and this is where I would put your focus of the card to actually hide the seam line. But there is, however, a way that you can line this up to make it look a bit more seamless, and because we want to put this on an angle on the card, I think it works so well. So what I will do, and I'll attempt to show you this and get this right. Okay. So what I want to do next is run this through the die cutting machine, but I want to run it through the die cutting machine like that. And if you can see what I'm doing, I'm actually lining up this part circle, this sort of semicircle, with a circle that I've already created there. Now it's not going to be a perfect circle, of course, but it's going to be as good as. And also this one here, this one matches, let's say it doesn't match, it lines up really quite well also. So if you just bear with me 1 second, I'm just going to take this to my die cutter machine because I really wanted to show you this. Hopefully you can hear me as I go across the other side of the room. I really wanted to show you this sort of work, you know, in practice. And I think sometimes the only way you can do this is to actually die cut. Now it wouldn't be my ideal scenario to leave you with a blank screen, but if you just bear with me, hopefully you can still hear me. Right, now as I come back to the screen, I die cut in exactly the same position as I showed you before. Let's take out those inserts, and you can see that as I move that die cut away, although the design is stepped, as you can see, it sort of gives you a seamless flow of bubbles or loops. Now, anyone who's going to look really closely at this, and obviously they're going to see that it's not, but once you put the rest of the embellishments onto the card, it's not something I think that is going to shout at you immediately. So what I'm going to do is just trim away where those areas were stepped, because that did make it look obvious that it wasn't even. and I'm just going to snip away this section here. Okay, let me just snip that bit also. Now what this is doing is actually showing you that if you were to line up the dies in the way that I've just said, you could actually use this on a square card in itself. If the design you was doing wouldn't allow you to sort of hide the seam, I think that that is perfectly respectable die cut embellishment using the DL card. And if you were to put this on a card and tidy it up a little, I think that works really, really well. These are slightly oval, but as I say, once you put the rest of the sort of the focal points of the card on, that really isn't going to jump out at you. Now, as I say, the challenge card says that we have to put a layer on in the background at an angle. Now, we could do this with, let's get a piece of card. Now, we could get a solid piece of card and we could put this on an angle like so, trim along the shape of the card like that. And then you have that sitting there. So I've just taken that one step to alter it just slightly, and I'm using this die cut. So we want to have that sitting at an angle like this. Now I'm just going to rearrange that slightly to work out the best positioning. And I want to show you also now how we can trim into this just to tidy it up a little. And while I'm saying that, I'm looking for my scissors. I'll put them so there they are. Okay, so now we can go ahead and we can tidy this up further by taking some little scissors, or whichever you want, and actually start tidying up and making the most of these lovely circles that are here. So all I'm doing, I'm just going in and snipping away these extra bits that really don't lead anywhere onto the design. So if you can see what I'm doing, I'm just following the line of the whole circles, the ones that aren't partially cut, and with a little bit of practice and just a little bit of thought, you can do that really easy. And you can start seeing now how clean this die can actually become. Ooh, snip that away there. Now I want to take off these little edges too, so we just, now you may decide that you want to snip off the little circles themselves. That's entirely up to you. This is where you can really adapt this to make this look pleasing to your eye, and this is what creating is all about really, isn't it? Now I want to sort this little section out here because it's looking a little messy. I think because we've got this circle isn't complete, I will snip that away. We've got plenty of this die to actually play with. I shall take that through there, and we will use this full circle there. Don't be afraid to snip into your dies. I mean, it is only paper that you're working with at the end of the day, of course. Now what we can do, we can snip that tiny little bit of there to make that look neater. And I think just all, you know, all these little details, they really will help your card come together into something that you can be really proud of. And you can see now how that is taking shape. And we can sit that on the card like so. What I would do, I would glue that on. And then I would trim. You can either use your scissors or you can use your trimmer. It's entirely up to you. And you can just trim around the shape of the card like so. Let's hold that in place. Okay, now you can see there that we have our panel of circles ready to be put onto the card, and this is how I created this background here. Now obviously each time you do it, I think it's going to turn out to be quite slightly different which again is another bonus, I think, because even if you're batch making, you do want the cards to look slightly different because it gives them that bespoke feel. So what I would do now for the process of this card, I would glue this on directly onto the background and allow that glue to dry. Now if you wanted to, you could colour this separately, you could colour this before you cut it out, you can colour the card, it's entirely up to you, but I just wanted to show you the process of using the slimline die to create something other than what it was actually designed for. And I think that is really key to all of our products. We really want them to work well for us. So we buy them because we like them, and sometimes we can sort of get a little bit stale, we can forget or sort of run out of ideas. So that's a nice idea. Now, excuse me. Now I've already done one and I've glued that onto the background here and allowed the glue to dry, which I think is actually key for this next piece of the card, because what I'm going to do now is actually colour this background. And if you actually look at this background, I've done this one slightly different, and we have a really strange circle shape going on here in the background, but the way that I planned it out with the embellishment that's going to go on, that isn't actually going to be seen, but what will be seen is the lovely flowing circles around the outside. So it's something, if you can just look past the imperfections, it will give you something really, really special. Okay, so now I'm going to colour the background, and I'm going to do this and work over the die cut circles there. So now the colours that I've used initially on this card are these three here. Use speckled egg, salvage patina and antique linen, and that's given us that lovely colour there. Now I'm going to, the flowers, the cherry blossom is going to be a slightly different colour. Well, it's going to be a very different colour actually, it's going to be pink. So I'm just wondering, do I introduce a little bit of pink? Let me just start and see where I go with it, because who knows where it will take me. So speckled egg, I'm using Lisa's blending brushes, of course. I tend to use very little else these days. And we'll start adding some colour. Now I'm working over the whole page as if we didn't have these circles here, and what you'll notice that they'll pick up the colour at different rates and create different effects and different backgrounds, and that's exactly the look that I wanted. So let me just add some colour down. I might try and make this go more blue. This is a slightly greenier turquoisey colour, but as we're adding pink, I think blue and pink, straight blue and pink work well together. So I might keep salvage patina out of this one, as much as I love that. So you can see I'm adding the colour. You can see where the raised areas are, that it's actually picking up the ink a lot more, and it's looking quite cloud-like. That's what I really like. Now I will add some antique linen because I just love these two colours together. It's just something that, I don't know, there's just a real theme through most of the cards that I make. I will always come back to this colourway. I think it works so well. Now what I'm doing, the inks I'm using this time around are just the straightforward distress inks. I'm not using oxides. You can if you want, that's entirely up to you. I just wanted the softness and just the little bit of control that I could have with the distress inks, and I didn't want the inks too wet, because to be honest, with this heat and sort of feeling sticky, I think I would probably get in a bit of a mess with them distress oxides at the moment. I know I was colouring these flowers in yesterday, and although I really enjoyed that, I was sticking to everything, and it was I couldn't get my flow on, let's put it that way. Okay, so I think what I might do, I might just introduce a tiny bit of pink just to liven that up a little bit. So I'll come in with Kitsch Flamingo. So this is a really pale colour, and I really only want hints of pink showing through here. Actually, that's so pale, I can't see that. Okay, there we are. I really don't want to overwhelm the pink in the background here at the moment, because I want the pink to really stand out and grab you with the flowers. So that just adds a different dimension. Actually, that looks really oil on water like, that does. Okay, so that's enough pink. I really don't want to overdo that. I do want to introduce a little more blue, so maybe I'll come in with a bit of stormy sky, just really lightly, just come in there, because I'll say the overriding colour really in the background I want to have is blue, which would be like the sky. So I don't know how the colours are coming out for you. Oh, yeah, actually it looks almost bubble like. I think it's like the oil on water bubble colour that you get. Do you know what I will do? I might come in with just a little bit of the salvage patina. Now you see I'm thinking on my feet, and I'm using a smaller brush here. And I'll just come into some of the bubbles, and that might just lighten that up a little bit. Again, this is just something that you can play with, and you just carry on working away until you get the look that you're after. Now you can see already that this is working out to look so much different to the original card I made. Perhaps I come in with a bit of antique linen. There we are. I quite like that there's a sort of lot of lighter areas in the background here. That's the way that I like to work. That's sort of what is pleasing to my eye. I know a lot of people, you could actually make this look very metallic and work really dark colours into this and it'd look fantastic. I'm not very good at that, and I never quite know where to stop. So let's see. I might just leave this a second. Now you can see also the reason why I say you really need to have added your die cuts and allow the glue to dry and take off any of the excess glue that may have been sort of pushed out from underneath the die, because as that dries that would act as a resist and it would actually give some white areas. There's a few little bits there which isn't going to be too much of a problem, but if there is too much glue, excess glue, then that may detract from the rest of the design. Now I'm just looking for, what did I do with my stamps? Bear with me a second. I can tell the heat's gone to my head because I've put things down. I can't find them. Either that or I've tidied up too. Oh, there they are. Tidied up too efficiently and they disappeared. Okay, I'm just going to come in with these background collection, the texture stamps, because I just want to add a little bit of texture into the background here. Nothing too bold, nothing sort of in your face, but I think you just need a little bit of interest just in the background here. And I'm just going to be using, my hands are so sticky at the moment, so I'm just going to be using my hands and I'm just dabbing off the ink before I actually apply this to the paper. I'm just dabbing it off on the side, as you can see, because I really don't want the stamping to be too bold. But what it does do, it just adds that little bit of interest in the background, and I'm using the antique linen so that it really does merge into the background. Now, if you didn't want to create an inky background like this, or you just want to make a quick card but you want to give this a try, you can use any of Lisa's design papers in the background, either the any of the original ones, the Capri or the Barley collection would work fabulously because they've got subtle pattern in the background, but even the most recent collections, the floral collections, the vintage florals and the what are they called? Oh, the vintage garden and the collage florals, that would work equally as well, and you could put your die cut circles on the top there. Okay, that's it. So I think we'll just leave that like that. I'll just come in with a couple of these splats here, and I might use the speckled egg just to add a tiny little bit of contrast in the background. I'll do it in exactly the same way. I'll just do it really faintly and build it up to a pattern. I shall double ink and double stamp until the ink has works its way off the stamp, and you see I'm blotting it onto the side first. That's because, as I say, I really don't want a harsh impression at this stage on the card. Now, there we are. Now, I really enjoy making backgrounds like this, and I find that even if I'm stuck for an idea with a card, I'll start off creating a background like this, and then the card seems to evolve from the base or from the background upwards. So sometimes I don't always have a clear idea of what the final project is going to look like. I just sort of sit down and work away. So we've got the background there. So it looks very different to what we have here, but that's good. And so that's ready to put onto our card base. Okay, so the glue works. We'll put that down quickly. Now you could, if you wanted, matte and lay this onto a nice contrasting colour. I like to have this straight onto a white card blank and keep that white simple frame around the background. So the next thing we need to do then is work on our main images for the card. Now, as I say, I'm using the Cherry Blossom Edgecutz stamp and die set, and I've stamped this out and coloured this already. I used pro markers. I used the pinks, so I've used RV 32 and 34 with a pale pink in the background of R00, which is pinkish white. It's given me a lovely pink hue. So that's true cherry blossom, which is easier to say, no, easier to read than to say. Okay, I've also die cut it, but I haven't die cut it fully because this is the concept of the Edgecutz dies. Now I'm just going to bring in the two dies to actually show you. The dies come in two halves, which would allow you to shape your card with just half a die, but it also allows you to die cut the image out fully if you place them on together like so, which is exactly what I've done there. But by doing that, there's two little notches that you just need to snip. So if this is the first time using the Edgecutz dies and you wanted to die cut this out fully and use as an embellishment in itself, don't be alarmed when you don't cut through the whole image fully. All you need to do is take a tiny pair of scissors and just snip. It really is only a couple of millimetres. It's not anything you can go wrong with at all. Just a little snip there and a little snip at the bottom, and that releases the image, so you have a true die cut image like so, even though you have two halves of the die cut. So that may be something that you haven't seen before. Now, before I stick this on also, you'll notice that we've got a beautiful cut around the outside, but the inside is still retained within the design, which is great. But when you're putting this onto such a coloured background, this white to me really jumps out on me. So one of the techniques that I really like to do is just to colour the background. Now I'm going in with one of the palest colours that I've got, which is BG11, and this really works well when I've used speckled egg background or speckled egg ink in the background. Because what we can do, we can colour this in, and obviously this is going to be the sky, but in doing this also it really makes all the white areas of the blossom that you've left, and I think it's quite important when you're colouring a cherry blossom flower is to keep a lot of white in the flowers as well. When I say it's important, that's the way that I like the cherry blossom to look. I think that's sort of what is one of the distinguishing features of the cherry blossom. So if you keep a lot of white in the flowers, and then when you colour the background like this, the white that you've left in the flowers all of a sudden really pops, and it becomes really bold, because obviously you don't have the white of the background to distract it, or detract from it, should I say. So I think this is a really nice little neat trick to make your cherry blossom look even prettier. Now I'm using this colour because it matches with my background. If you have a slightly yellower background, then I would suggest using a really pale yellow in the background, and obviously because you want to keep it toned, and you just want to give the impression that although no, we haven't die cut the centre of this stamp, we can disguise the fact, and we can really use that as a design feature, and use that by colouring the background here. So it really doesn't take that long. There we are. And that to me just really makes the pink and that white of that blossom really vibrant. I don't know if you can notice the difference from when I first started that, and then when I pop this on here now, I think that blends so well into the background, and you'll notice here I've done exactly the same. Okay, and that really is now just a case of constructing the card. I've already put my 3D frame onto the back of the flowers here. So we take off those and we can place that down. And any imperfections you'll see that we may have had in the circle background and the back has now been covered. So what we can't see and all of that. So now for the sentiment. I'm using some of the banner dies, and I'm using the words from the stamp set from the layered words section. Now, to make this card, or to make the sentiments sort of really fit in with the rest of the card, I've just die cut them from white card, and I'm going to colour the background. Oh, obviously that's that end of the pen has dried out a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to colour the background in a colour that I've used to colour the stems of the flower. And again, this is all about tying in the colour families that you have on your card, and I think that's what starts making the cards really sort of pleasing to the eye and sort of making them gel. If you really think about sort of the colour palettes that you use and the pens that you've used to colour your flowers, just keep them out so you know which ones to reach for again. Now I don't need to colour the whole of that because the section that I'm going to stamp on is going to colour that, is going to cover that over. So I'd say it's all about smoke and mirrors, isn't it? I mean, we know how these cards are constructed, but if you went to give this to somebody, they wouldn't see all of this, and they'd be, you know, rightly so. And then the colour that I used in the background of the flowers here, I'm just going to use the chisel nib there so we can get that coloured really quick. I'm using that in the background for the sentiment. And of course, with the Pro markers, you can make that so it's a seamless colour, and it will look like that you've used a piece of card of that colour. Okay. So we'll just attach that to its background, like so. There we are. Oh, so my hands are all. There we are. Just use that in the background. Okay, so now I have my stamps ready. Now I've made this one for my sisters, so I think in the spirit of fairness I shall make this one for my mum. Okay, so I shall use the VersaFine Claire, and oh Dawn, I've actually invested in a couple of these colours actually. I managed to get them when I was over in Wales, so I'm going to use the Twilight one, which is a really nice dark blue, and it's not harsh like the black, so it'll sit really nicely on the card. So I'll just ink up the stamp like so, and we can stamp that centrally. There we are, and I think that works really nicely to sit there like that. Now I do need some foam onto the back. What have I done with my foam? I've put my foam, there it is, I can see it poking out from a pile of paper. Okay, so I've got a little bit of foam, let's stick that on the back, and that is essentially the basis of the card made. Oh. We can sit like so. Oh, we've got a butterfly flapping around. There we are. Now the challenge card does also have a couple of gems, of course, in the background there. So I think I'll just take, well, there's some silver ones in there actually. I should use those. And these are the newest flatback gems that we have. Oh no, this is a gold one. These are the newest ones that Lisa has brought to us. There we are. So we can just fit our 3 little gems on the side there, and that will finish the card off nicely. As I say, if you want some more inspiration, or just you'll need to see sort of the card design that we're using for the challenge, do head to our Facebook group. I think it's sitting at the top of the page. There's also a challenge folder, and I think there's a good steady stream of people entering the competition, so we have the inspiration there also. And that's today's card. So let's have a quick look at the messages. Oh, we have a few people joining us now. Hi Tina, hi Connie, Christy, Natalia, Lorraine. Lovely to have you all here this afternoon. Oh, hi Elizabeth. Nice to see you all again. Oh, Lisa's here as well. Hi Lisa, how are you? And thank you Dawn for all of the links there. There's all sorts going on. As I say, this is just my take on the card. There's so many different ways you can use this, and do keep an eye open for Lisa's shows on the 23rd. There's some fabulous bargains to be had also. So that would be really exciting for us all to watch. I shall leave that for you this afternoon. I shall go off and get myself cool and get myself a drink of water. And I hope to see you all again next week. Take care everybody.